Hello everybody, welcome to this morning's Speakers for Schools virtual talk. We're delighted that you've been able to join us today. This session will last around 45 minutes and will include a presentation from our speaker before moving to student Q&A. Questions for today's speaker can be submitted via the Q&A function on the right-hand side of your screen, and this will be open towards the end of the presentation. Unfortunately, we will not be able to answer all submitted questions. There is simply not enough time to answer them all, but rest assured they have been received. We're delighted to welcome this morning's speaker, Reemah Sakaan, Group Launch Director with Britbox. Reemah has kindly agreed to join us today to discuss what it takes to have a career in TV, the skills and qualities that you might need, and more about her career journey. Reemah, hi, welcome to your first Speakers for Schools virtual talk.
Hello, hi, thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for being with us today.
Reemah, you're muted. Sorry, that was my mistake. No,
I'm back.
You go back, yeah.
Perfect.
Hello, I was saying hi, thank you for having me, but I was on mute. What a classic Zoom error.
Thank you so much for being with us today. So I think you have a fantastic presentation to get us started, and then we'll move to some student questions.
Great, thank you, Carly. Morning, everybody. Firstly, let me introduce myself. I'm Reemah Sakaan. As the intro said, I work as ITV's Group Director for SVOD, which is a stupid industry term for streaming. So video streaming like iPlayer, Netflix, Amazon Prime and Britbox. And have had a career in telly for about the past 20 years. And spent the last 5 years doing streaming, which I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my background and some top tips from me on kind of how I got there. Firstly, excuse these terrible headphones. There's some building work and I've got a noisy house today, so I've had to put these noise cancelling headphones on, which don't do anything for my hair. I'm very aware of that. And secondly, congratulations for everyone being up and online and listening to this at this time. I've got 5 nieces and nephews ranging the ages exactly, covers this group, and I can tell you they're all still in bed. So as it's your last week as well, I think most of your last weeks, I think that's great going. As I say, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what I do and what the hell it is, and then spend most of the time talking about how I got there and some learnings along the way, and then really open to any questions you have at all. I've taken my inspiration, some of you may recognise this font, in fact, from classic quotes from Love Island, actually. Sometimes brilliant, sometimes nonsense. Some people love it, some people loathe it. I'm a fan, have been for quite a long time. I'm a super fan of television, so I watch pretty much everything and really love Love Island, not only because of the show, because it just sort of has turned into a popular culture phenomenon. And you see that with memes that come out for it, the language that gets created that people share and talk about, and the things that people take out of it, both entertainment and all sorts of other things. And as I started to have a look into what I wanted to say, sort of, and I was looking for some inspirational quotes, these kept popping up, thinking, God, this is very apt and it's very me. So that's part of my theme, be yourself. So where's your head at is my first one, and that's really just about making sure that each of you as individuals really work out what makes you tick, what makes you happy, when you know and feel that you're really loving what you do, and that usually means that you're really good at it. So taking some time, and I know right now can feel a bit odd and weird and it all feels confusing, quite panicky, but taking some time to note along the way things that come naturally to you, that are easier for you to do and that you really enjoy, because that's quite often what you'll do best at it. I think I spent a long time, certainly as a student, trying to improve the things I wasn't very good at, rather than really doubling down on the things that I was really, really good at. And you need to do that to be able to get a rounded education and a rounded career, probably, but really things start to work when you start doing things that you're really, really good at. So work out where your head's at. That's one of my first tips. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Britbox now, just so you know what it is I'm chatting about, but I won't spend too much time on the industry as such. I guess one of the most interesting things about it, it's a streaming service. It's a all British streaming service. It's a joint venture between two of the biggest powerhouses in British TV, the BBC and ITV, and that's a really interesting start point just from a business point of view. You see a lot of companies having to do this actually to compete with those big global giants. What they're doing is people who were previously competitors, sort of really sort of fierce competitors, if you think about BBC One and ITV as TV channels, they're constantly sort of trying to win against each other. But they've also got lots of other businesses that they own and do. So both of them have got big studios that make lots of TV programmes. In fact, both companies make TV programmes for the other's TV channel. So ITV Studios make some shows that actually go on BBC One, and BBC Studios make some shows that go on ITV. So actually they're more like compatible partners than competitors in some businesses. But never before have they kind of got together and created a brand and a business together that is consumer facing, so that faces out to people who would buy it and use it. And the two people on the right here are, on the right hand side is Carolyn McCall, who's the CEO of ITV. She is one of only 7 female CEOs in the top 100 UK companies, and we're really, really lucky and pleased that she's CEO at ITV. She's a real transformational leader, all about digital change and reviving ITV and bringing it into a very, very digital future. So this was a really big project that she'd led. And the chap on the left is Tony Hall, and he is Director General of the BBC, so heads up all of the BBC. He's actually on his way out. They've just announced there's a new Director General of the BBC, but it's not really so much about them as individuals, but what they represent as 2 great big British creative companies who have come together to do something very, very different to what they normally do it quite differently, and to be able to compete with the likes of Netflix, Amazon, Sky, and all of those really, really big global companies. And that's the other thing to say about Britbox is it starts in the UK, but we've got a big business in the US and in Canada, and we're just launching it in Australia. So the way in which British TV is made and what it stands for is quite different. So when you watch something like, I don't know, a US soap or a UK soap or a US comedy or a UK comedy, they feel quite different. They're both great. They do it quite differently. And it was really that realization that what we do with British television, British storytelling, is a bit different, and that we could hold our own in this space. It's not trying to be an instead of. It's, if you like this kind of TV, you can now get it in the way that you used to just be able to get American TV in terms of streaming. So it's big business overseas as well as in the UK. And I look after all of those. So the business in the UK, US and Canada, and as I say, we're just launching in Australia. This is the only chart in the whole thing, and I promise you it's quite interesting-ish for me. So why are we up to that? People watch loads and loads and loads of telly, and when I say telly, I mean any kind of telly, channels, on-demand, player, YouTube, anything really that's video on a screen, and usually on a big screen, increasingly on a big screen, but for quite a lot of people on the move, and in sort of a secondary way on your mobile as well. In the UK, people watch about 3 hours of telly a day. The average adult watches 3 hours a day, which is a lot of time. And the chart up here is a really interesting one, because actually lockdown and the pandemic has changed the way people watch TV quite significantly. It's a move that we've been seeing happening, but it's been much, much faster because people have been at home and making different choices. So the pink line at the top is commercial TV, that's ITV, so TV that's supported with advertising, ITV, Channel 4, Channel 5, those sorts of channels. That's how many minutes a day people are watching. The blue line is BBC, and BBC is funded in a different way. You pay a license fee. I think that's why it's ad-free. That's the blue line there. The dotted lines are their previous years, so the number of minutes per day in the previous years. And the yellow line is a thing called unmatched TV set use, which is a weird term, but it basically means streaming. And so actually what's happened, and you may have recognised it yourself when you're looking for new entertainment, you're all at home as a family or at home as an individual, people have really shifted into different ways of watching. So still watching lots and lots of live TV and channels, but actually the move to what people are watching kind of in streaming services has been even more sped up, and that's that sort of yellow line in the middle, we call it. It's still on a big screen, but people are going to their apps first instead of their channels first. And that's a big shift and something we've seen happening over a long time. And that's why this picture down here is, you know, from an old world telly box type thing to it being full of apps and choices. And in the past, that's really been dominated by American services, so Netflix, Amazon, you know, Now TV even has had mostly American content on it in terms of the stuff that it does exclusively. And so really putting some new British players into the mix there. If you like watching TV in that way, just make sure you can find the stuff that you really want. And that's what Britbox is all about doing. Another few, first, as I said, the picture on the left, that's how you watch it. It's apps, it looks like Netflix, it plays like Netflix, that's what it is. But in terms of what you get, it's all of the UK stuff all in one place. It's the largest collection of British box sets all in one place, from mystery, history, comedy, cookery, everything in between, film. And a lot of that is back catalogue, so box sets of stuff that people love, but also new shows that we're making that will only be in Britbox. And so Spitting Image is a show that actually we're bringing back but hasn't been around for about 20 years. It's a satirical puppet show, and these moulded puppets are made, and there's a puppet workshop going on at the moment. We're furiously building and creating animations and puppets. These are all live puppets. They're controlled by puppeteers, and then voiceover artists and a bunch of comedians writing sketches every week based on the news, basically. So as you can imagine, the world is pretty bonkers right now, and so there's lots of material for this. But we're really excited about bringing this to Britbox in autumn. So I couldn't go without a small plug, but look out for this because it's going to be funny and a bit odd. Next big thought I guess I had when I was putting this together, 100% my type on paper. So I tried to write down sort of, okay, what was my career on paper, and also what were the things that really shone out within there. And I actually started my career in advertising. So I did a business degree and went into marketing and advertising. And advertising, what they call fast-moving consumer goods, which basically stuff you find in the supermarket. And had a really fun time working on some big brands like Haagen-Dazs, so posh ice cream. I worked in the booze industry for a while, so Smirnoff was one of my key brands, and then made the shift into TV through marketing, actually. So joined the BBC as a marketing manager in their factual and learning department, which was really all about kind of their programs like Bite Size. So worked on that for quite a long time, and then moved through and started working on TV channels, and also then the launch of things like iPlayer, which is what got me into the sort of digital side of TV and the streaming side of TV a while back. About probably 8 or 9 years ago now, I left the BBC and went to ITV again in a marketing job, and then about 5 years ago moved into managing streaming as a whole. So that SVOD, subscription video on demand, is what it stands for, but it means that people pay directly. They can put their credit card details in and pay directly, and so it's a slightly different way of handling how you pay for and make TV programs. And sort of that was one of my big learnings in terms of doing the things that you love. So I love all these things. I like food, I like entertainment. I have always loved TV. I've always loved popular culture. I was probably a bit of a telly addict as a kid. Magazines, reading, books, but probably more pop culture rather than high culture. And just had a kind of nose for people as well, sort of what makes people tick. In advertising, quite often you have to go, well, why does this ice cream make you feel better than that ice cream? And what is it about that brand that makes people more drawn to it or magnetic towards it than something else? And it's a really, really interesting world, and working on really, really good quality products, but also talking to people about them in a really entertaining way and a way that emotionally connects with them, so that they feel more attracted to your business than somebody else's business. And so kind of, a great passion for business, a great passion for food, entertaining, TV, popular culture really led me through my career path. I would never have known that when I sat down when I left school or left uni and thought, what am I going to do? I sort of didn't even know that you could get jobs in these industries. I'm like, how do you get a job in TV? Are there marketing people in the BBC? Are there accountants in the BBC? Are there HR people in the BBC? I mean, that would be my kind of big learning, is that if you think about wanting to work in the entertainment or the music industry or any of the digital industries that feel a little bit untouchable, you should think about it really, really broadly, because there are all jobs in those industries. There's lawyers, there's even medics and health staff, there's HR people, there's accountants, there are marketers, there's a whole world of the business that drives the business of TV, aside from just production. Production is fantastic and really, really good if you can get into it, but it's notoriously quite hard to crack. There isn't really training level roles. It's a lot of it is done outside of the likes of the BBC and ITV, so production companies that are outside of the businesses supply shows. They tend to be smaller companies, so a bit harder to get into. So I guess in this point, just think really, really broadly about what you love doing, and then kind of how you get into it, and just follow your gut instinct on whether something feels like you'd really enjoy it. Does it really make your sort of mind tick over? Does it keep your attention? Because you have to turn up every day and do it with some enthusiasm. So you've got to make sure that ticks those boxes. I strayed a little from Love Island into one of my other favourite shows, which is RuPaul's Drag Race. And again, you probably get the sense I'm a little bit of a reality fan, but I do watch everything. But I think that show is brilliant, and I think it really, really stands for being an individual, owning who you are and celebrate it, because it's really, really hard to try and be anybody else. And that's taken me probably quite a long time to get to, although I've always been one of those people that's myself wherever I am, whether at work or at home with my family. And I think once you kind of can bottle who you are and really, really, as I say, lean into making that your strengths stronger, it really starts to tick. So a little bit about me. I've kind of grown up slightly all over the world. I've got mixed ethnicity background. My dad is Syrian, my mum is Irish. I was born in the Middle East. I grew up for a little while in the States, but I've spent most of my life. I came to the UK when I was about 9, but sort of classic second generation immigrant family. I went to a very standard comprehensive school in North London, which I absolutely loved, and did my A-levels there, and then went on to university in Bath. That's one of the first people in my family to go to uni. But one of the things that has always kind of rung true with me, whether it was as a kid living in America and kind of beguiled and glued to American advertising and American television, or in playgrounds in schools, or you know, most of the gossip with my friends and family revolve around pop culture. So music, the arts, television, what's going on, the royal family, you name it. You know, it just always really, really sparks my curiosity and enthusiasm. And then, you know, that coupled with a real love of business, like how businesses work and working really, really hard. And again, that sort of work ethic that quite often comes with, you know, my kind of background. We just always worked really, really hard. And it's taken me a long time to sort of put all those pieces together, because actually quite a lot of the time I was spent moving from school to school or moving from country to country, sometimes feeling a bit odd, a bit weird. I've got a bit of a funny name. It's not really very normal, explaining my background, which is quite rare. And what I've come to learn is that was an enormous gift, and it's a huge advantage actually. So I tend to be really at home in new cultures. I can talk to anybody. I love traveling. You know, first on a plane if we need to get out to Australia or the US, and working with people from different backgrounds and different cultures just comes very, very natural to me. So once a thing that I thought was a bit weird and a bit odd and didn't really fit in, I've realised has sort of become my secret sauce, which has been brilliant to really sort of be able to use and shout about. My next point, grafting, and I think I alluded to it just earlier, but really my feeling on all this is nothing that was ever very good was ever very easy. That's kind of one of my big learnings, and loads and loads and loads of hard work is actually tends to be what gets you places. Coupled with that, a lot of patience. So I think you need to be able to throw yourself into things, to give it your all, to try many, many things, to make sure that you learn from the things that even when you've worked really, really hard, don't always come off, because quite often they'll be the things that teach you the most to go on to the next thing. But try lots of things. Don't imagine, I guess, that it's going to be easy, but that's what I mean about enjoying what you do, because you're going to have to work really, really hard and tirelessly at it. Then you need to have a real enthusiasm and passion for it. So don't be afraid of hard graft. It's good fun. I got my first job at the age of 12. I was a Saturday girl in the hairdressers, and I realised the other day actually that I've never not had a job since, and I'm now a lot older, 4 times older than that, and so I've been working for a really, really long time continuously, but doing loads and loads of different things within that, and you know, having the opportunity to work and live in different countries and take opportunities as they come up. So the last 3 years, actually I just came back because of lockdown, but the last 3 years I was living in New York and basing myself there to work on the US business as well as the UK business, and that was an opportunity that came along because of Britbox, and it was a, you know, brilliant learning experience. You know, they work really, really hard, long hours in the US. They have 10 days holiday a year compared to our 5 weeks here, but huge learning curve, and a great experience being able to live and work in New York as well. So all of that, you know, hard graft always tends to lead you to your next opportunity, in my experience. And this was my point about, you know, there are loads of jobs. When I say, you know, work hard within an industry, there are loads of different types of jobs within TV. I think everyone only thinks about the TV show making of it, but there are risk assessment people who go and see whether there's, you know, fire and health risks on a set. There are legal people, there are stylists, there's artists, there's set designers, there's travel consultants. There's, I mean, you wouldn't believe the amount and diversity of jobs that exist in TV. So if the thing that really makes you tick is maths or writing or art, don't feel that you can't go all the way in that sort of channel to say, okay, I really want to be great at that, and then I want to use that to get my job in entertainment or TV or the music industry. So keep broad. Don't think you just have to be a TV presenter or a cameraman or camerawoman to be able to get a good job in TV. So work hard and keep open-minded. And then my final Love Islandism is just to crack on, be really, really brave, have a go, go for as many opportunities, contact as many people as you know, family, friends, people in the industry, sort of keep that network of relationships going. That's the best way, and try really hard at everything that you do, your next set of exams, your next set of challenges, your next sort of work experience opportunity. Take each one as a kind of adventure and crack on and have a go with as many of them as you can. That's it from the formal side of my presentation.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Reemah. We've had
stop sharing.
Yes, that's all. Stop sharing.
Great.
Excellent. So we've had quite a few questions submitted from our students, and I guess first off, it'd be really interesting to look at your own journey and career, if that's okay, before moving to future careers advice and some questions about your industry as well. So one of our students here, Sunda, has asked, did you go to university, and if you did, what degree did you do?
Yep. I did. I went to uni and I did a business degree. So I was one of those people who left school, still didn't know what I was really wanted to do. I knew I was kind of into the way businesses worked and wanted to keep my options open. So I did a business degree, which allowed me to do modules in everything from maths to accounting to marketing to research, you know, customer research, that sort of thing. So that kept my options fairly open. And then I specialised kind of in marketing towards the end. You can choose at the end.
Fantastic. And have you had a kind of specific person who's inspired you throughout your career, or any mentors who've been able to give advice or help you on your journey at all?
I've had a couple of really great bosses who, again, have just spotted that thing about, you know, go further in what you're good at rather than trying to kind of be everything. As I said, I introduced Carolyn, who's the CEO of ITV at the beginning. She's definitely an incredibly inspirational person to work for, and has certainly mentored me along the way as I've, you know, gone from doing a marketing job into broader business management and general management, being kind of the CEO of a Britbox type role, and that's been really fantastic. And as I say, there aren't very many female CEOs to look up to, so it's really been brilliant to sort of have that. And she does that by being very much herself. She is a complete force of nature. She's got endless energy and enthusiasm for things. She's very female in the way that she leads. She is open and discursive. She's very supportive and encouraging. She doesn't, you know, try to emulate, I guess, more, and I don't think anyone really does anymore, but feel like they need to behave like that to be successful in a sort of more male-dominated career.
That's great. Thank you so much. One of our students has asked, what was it that about marketing and digital that really kind of spoke to you, I guess, and gave you an idea that was something that you were really interested in? How did you recognise that passion, I guess, so early on in your career as well?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that really made it make sense for me is it's sort of half art, half science. And I've always been a fairly equal, I never know which one it is, left hand, right hand brain, but I've always known I'm really creative, and that's really important. I love, you know, the sort of creative and visual side of what I do. I also like kind of working people out, so the marketing bit about what drives people's decisions, you know, a bit of psychology. I did sociology as an A-level. I really kind of love working out the way people's brains tick and then going, I think I might be able to kind of look at this in a slightly different way and present it to you in a slightly different way. And then the sort of maths and science that sits behind that, and the other bit of marketing, which is, okay, how much should it cost? You know, what's your profit margin? How much should you spend on advertising it? How can you make a return? Really appeal to that sort of other side of you know, sort of left hand, right hand brain. So I don't know whether there was a sort of moment, but when I found out it was a thing, because I didn't even really know it was a thing, I think, until I went to university. I thought, yeah, I'd just got on telly by themselves or whatever. It was like, oh, okay, this is interesting.
Fantastic, thank you. And of course, at the moment, a lot of us are still working at home. Students are still learning at home as well. So how have you kind of gone with working during lockdown? Has that been the same as before? Has it been more difficult, have you found? I think some of our students are reflecting on then attempting to study at home and learn at home at the moment.
I'll be really honest about this. I've absolutely hated it. It works. It's really amazing that everyone can work and still do their job. I'm completely a people person. I have my best ideas with people and around people. I love working in teams. I love creating teams. And I feel a little bit like I've had one of my sort of limbs removed to sort of be able to do that. I get energy from people and being around them. So I travel a lot for my job, and going and seeing people where they work and in their own environment is a really important part of that, having ideas and building team feelings. So I can imagine it's exactly the same from a learning environment, sort of going into school, the fun bit, the kind of learning bit. I remember being in classrooms when someone explained, you know, a teacher explained something to me or somebody else explained it, and that moment when it like clicks in your head and you remember where you were and why you got it, and it's kind of like a light bulb going on. I find that a lot harder on my own to do when I'm on my own. So I'm quite an experiential person. I like being around people. So yes, while it's amazing that and actually are, you know, from a day-to-day business point of view, I think nothing will ever be the same. Learning might also never be the same in terms of what this has forced us to do, but it wouldn't be my preference. It's probably a good way to sum it up.
I think it's really affecting us all in many different ways, isn't it? So especially if you're used to being part of that team and getting your creative ideas there and bouncing off one another, it can be quite difficult to kind of have that removed, I guess, for quite a long period of time as well.
Yeah.
And do you have any tips for how you, I guess, focus whilst you're at home and organise your day in terms of what it is that you want to achieve? And is there anything that you do to kind of set out your day so that you can do what you need to do whilst at home?
Yeah, I mean, I still make sure I have loads of FaceTime with my team, albeit digital. You know, when we get on a call or what have you, I do that really annoying thing where I make everyone switch their camera on and I make them say hi, and, you know, we have a kind of quiz on a Friday lunchtime so that everyone can just have a laugh together and just reconnect as people. I think that's really important, because once you start to feel detached from that, I think everything else doesn't really feel like it has a purpose or structure for me. And then I do put speed bumps in my day, so I block out lunch. I've recently moved, actually, because as I said, I was living in the States and then came back to the UK, and for the first time in my life, didn't need to be by an airport and didn't need to be by the office, so I've moved to the beach, actually, in Kent. So I'm just renting a place for summer, so I make sure that I walk out every day and I see the sea, and that's really important to me. So being close to nature, if it's a park, if it's the sea, if it's, you know, wherever you can be. So those sorts of life breaks in your day, human breaks in your day, and then also having some time to just block out, put your screen away and write. So I kind of have my ideas when I kind of usually am away from my screen. I've never really had a great idea staring at my computer. So go out, go for a walk, think of things, and I also have a notebook with me and write them down. So it's probably less structured than most, maybe, but it works for me.
Fantastic. I think that's the key thing, isn't it? It works for you, and that's how you kind of work best and get your best ideas.
Yeah.
One of our students here, I know you mentioned that you kind of started working when you were about 12, I think, as a Saturday girl. One of our students here said, how did you gain work experience? And I guess a more significant, I guess, the audience that's listening right now, What skills and activities are desirable for work experience when you're applying to work at a large company? What is it that large organisations might want to see on a CV, or what experiences would they hope their kind of applicants have?
Yeah, I mean, so I guess my first jobs and job roles were all like working in a shop, working in hairdressers, that sort of thing, really just understanding how business work, how to behave at work, how to handle money, how to be responsible. Those sorts of basics I think are really, really important. I think there's quite a leap then from going, you know, from doing a paper round or working in your shop or working as a waitress, actually a waitress all the way through A-levels in university. That's kind of what got me through uni, which that and working behind a bar was still my favourite jobs, I think, ever. So those sorts of environments are great for just understanding business and sort of timekeeping your shifts, all of that sort of thing. So think about those, because they tend to be good early work experience opportunities if you've got family that own businesses. If you can just connect through family and friends, I think that's always really good. Moving into kind of the office environment, which is weird, I think, as a concept for quite a lot of people. You know, my dad always owned his own business and owned a shop, and I remember when I first started working in an office, he sort of says to me, so when you go into the office, what do you do? I say, well, I go in and put my computer on. He'd be like, why'd you put your computer on? I say, well, so I can answer my emails. Like, right, and what's there? And I said, well, it's like opening the post. And, you know, so I think it's just quite a shift. And, you know, we communicate that we write our presentations, or, yeah, and so much has changed even since then. But the way, you know, businesses work, which is through lots of meetings, agendas for meetings, what's the purpose of the project, having a timeline. There's people like secretaries and project managers who kind of keep everything going. So I think, you know, quite often for businesses bringing school leavers in is about having new and fresh thinking. So don't be afraid to bring that thinking in. I think really doing a bit of understanding, just make sure you really know the business. Like if you're going into a engineering company, make sure you know what they sell, who their customers are, like, you know, what's on their website, have they had anything in the papers or anything recently. Like, do a bit of homework on the business and their business. You know, I still interview people for pretty senior jobs, and one of my first questions is always, so what are you watching on TV? And people get flummoxed by it. They're like, like, well, you do watch telly, don't you? You know, sort of. So having basic prepared answers about the business, being interested in it. So I'm interested that, oh, you brought this new product out and I saw you did this. So curiosity, and then your own kind of young perspective on things. Don't try and sort of grow up and be like everybody else too quickly, because that's why you want young people in business.
Fantastic, thank you. And one of our students here, Sendel, has asked, how many people work in an organisation like ITV or BBC? It's, you know, it's a lot.
Yeah.
But how many would you estimate, I guess?
Yeah, so I think there's about 2,500 full-time staff at ITV. There's about 4,000 if you include what we call freelancers, who are people that just come in for projects, and a lot of that is in TV production and TV programme making, because you might work on X Factor for 6 months and then you'll go and work on Strictly, for example. So they have a big freelance pool of people. The BBC is more like, I think it's like 6,000 across, and they've got lots of bases across the nations and regions as well. So Cardiff, Salford, BBC Scotland, BBC Northern Ireland. So they have lots of regional outposts as well. So they're pretty big. They're not huge, but pretty big in terms of overall business. And I would say, you know, a third to half working TV making, and the other half working the business of media.
Wonderful, thank you. One of our students here has asked, do you have to be super confident to work in TV?
No. Well, I don't think so. I don't think that's one of the conditions. You have loads and loads of different people. I know when I build teams, I have some people that are really extroverted and quite vocal. Doesn't necessarily mean they're confident, just means they're vocal. And then some people that are quite introverted and they prefer to work sort of a bit more on their own. But actually, really steely and have lots of confidence. So my interpretation of confidence is sort of trusting yourself, knowing what you're really good at, being quite centered and confident in your thoughts and beliefs, not necessarily confident and outward sort of in terms of being loud or having your voice heard. There's loads of different people that make up those teams. So self-confidence, I think, is really important in anything that you do. Kind of over brash confidence, definitely not. You need fairly confident people when you've got to present a live TV show. That's to be sure. But there are loads of other roles that don't require anywhere near the same sort of skills.
That's great, thank you. And one of our students was asked, how would you recommend to get into a career in the TV industry and big companies such as ITV and BBC? Are there apprenticeships? Are there graduate programs? You know, what does that kind of route look like, I guess, quite early on in your career?
Yeah, so there are some apprenticeships. I've shared with you the ITV apprenticeship programme, which hopefully will circulate to everyone. They start recruiting, I think, later this summer, and goes into autumn with a start in January, and that's a paid annual scheme. So there are some. There's not huge amounts of spaces in those. They're for predominantly school leavers. And then they don't tend to be that many graduate training schemes or formal graduate training schemes as such, but there are, as I said, quite a few graduate level jobs. So whether that be in HR or law or any of the other industries, say finance, accounting, marketing, all of those sorts of roles. So in that respect, sort of go for the sector that you really like, and then keep a lookout for the jobs. I found, I mean, I've been working, I got a graduate job. It wasn't a graduate job, I just got a job coming out of university in marketing, and then decided that I wanted to work in the entertainment industry. I went off travelling for a year and came back and just thought, oh, I don't want to do the thing that I did before, so I'm gonna have a go at working in television, and was unemployed for a bit. Unemployed in my career, but obviously working, and found an ad that was about this big for a job at the BBC in the paper, just because I was sort of scouring everything and any opportunity that came up. So I think just have all your alerts on, get on all the company websites as well as things like LinkedIn, because they don't always make it onto LinkedIn, and keep your eyes peeled.
That's fantastic advice. Thank you so much. We have time for one final question. This is from Amelia, who asks, how long have you liked watching Love Island, and are you watching the Australian version?
I've liked watching it from the first series. I think I launched the first series actually, which is quite fun. And we didn't know. And in fact, actually, this could really show my age. There was a previous series in the 90s called Celebrity Love Island, which only people of a certain age will know that was on ITV main channel, not on ITV2, and I watched that back in the day. So yeah, I'm an OG Love Island fan, and yes, I have been watching Australian Love Island, and it's so weird that even though we know who, well, in theory, know who's won. I haven't looked it up. I still love watching it every day, because you don't really watch it for the winner, you watch it for the thing. So no, I've really enjoyed it. I think it's been brilliant, and it's nice to see it back on our screen.
Fantastic, and unfortunately that is all we have time for today, but a huge thank you for being with us today, Reemah. I think your presentation and answers to our students' wonderful questions really gave an insight into the kind of wider TV and media industry, and also those different roles that exist that aren't in front of camera, and all of those different positions that make entire organisations tick and really make them work. So a huge thank you for joining us this morning. It really is appreciated. And to our students who asked their questions, apologies we didn't get a chance to get to them all, but we will share them all with Reemah after the session. So you'll get an idea of what students were asking, I guess, and what was at the forefront of their minds today. We have shared a feedback form in the Q&A thread. It'd be wonderful if you could complete that. And the colour for today's talk is dark gold. You will only need that if you're completing the student activity sheet as requested by your school or college. Reemah, thank you once again for being with us today.
Thank you so much, and thanks for everybody watching too. It's been really brilliant.
Wonderful, thank you. And we hope everyone has a great Monday.
Enjoy your Monday. Happy Monday. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.